up, y'all? Welcome to Daytime Talk After Dark. My name is Al Jackson. I'm joined here with my fam bam, Sammy, Tori, Erica, Jeff. We have so much to talk about. We are going to get right into it. Obviously, a lot went down this week. I hate to shock you guys with that one, but one that really affected me because I don't think I believed it, Jeff, until I clicked on the app, was TikTok was gone. And my girl showed me her phone, and then I went on my lap, and I was like, wait, this because they've been playing around with this idea for about a year now, and it was gone, and then it kind of came back after 36 hours, and it had a weird...
Was it even 36
hours? It was like 24. And there was
like 10. I think it was.
And there was I have the exact message, but before I get to the exact message, Jeff, what was your original thoughts when you first found out TikTok was no longer a part of our life?
I've never had TikTok, so I didn't even know it was gone. But I did know it was gone. I don't know. I go on Instagram for like 90 seconds, and I'm like, what am I doing, you idiot? Because it's the same thing. So I go on there, and everyone's posting pictures of their picture they took that their TikTok's off. I got it.
It's the same picture.
And I'm like, you morons. I'm like, everyone's posting the same thing. And I'm like, I'm the moron. And then I get all pissed off at myself. And I'm like, you're an idiot. You think they're idiots? You're the fucking idiot. Look in the mirror. I hate you.
Yeah. But anyways, that was Mom, Dad's on TikTok again.
Oh, God. It's like when someone takes a picture of the sky in LA and it's a good sunset and everything is the sky. You know?
Yeah.
Okay. You know what I mean?
I will say this, though. I don't think that the messages were the same. I think depending on when you went on and found out that it was paused, in the beginning, there was one message, and then the next message was that they were working with Trump to reinstate
they
it.
thanked Trump. That's
I didn't even see that.
They thanked Trump.
I didn't know there was. I didn't know that there was
Yeah.
another picture.
So there were two different messages. And just for context, so it was back in 2020 that Trump proposed this ban on TikTok. And I'm just saying what it is. Trump proposed a ban on TikTok. That was the first time that someone had openly said that this was what should be done. He had a very strong stance on it. And then right before the inauguration, it miraculously came back, stunt queen behavior. But also... This is where
the president of TikTok was also at the inauguration.
I was bring that up.
But I also like.
Who is that? Is that a well-known person?
Chat Sawa, I believe his name.
Yeah, but what really just I'm laughing because it's just so ridiculous. So Trump said essentially, yeah, I got this 75-day stay, but I can take it away again. So basically, it's if you don't act right, then I will take away your internet. Like, I will take away your TikTok. And I'm like, damn, do you really want to be beholden? Because what's the stipulation? If people get on there and start saying things that are less than favorable about this administration in 75 days, is it going to be taken away?
It's not whether they say it, Erica. I think we know they will. I think it's will you fix your algorithm so that that's pushed down? And I think that's what he's telling that president of TikTok. I think he's letting them know there's an algorithm that can be made, as Musk has showed us, with Twitter, that he said it, that right-wing voices are elevated on Twitter. He owns it. He's a right-wing voice. I guess you can do whatever you want with your algorithm. I think TikTok was really the only, obviously, not American-owned platform that was not only left-leaning, but liberal-leaning, and was kind of could not be brought under control. Meta, Instagram, to a lesser extent, YouTube, which is a largely male platform anyway, we're all kind of in the camp. And TikTok was the one kind of lone horse out there on the prairie, and they needed to bring that in. And he
you would know about horses. I mean,
well,
that was good. That was good.
Also,
Damn it.
I don't even know. I don't think that it would be. I don't know that it would be accurate to say that TikTok was left leaning. I think what's more accurate to say about TikTok, and the reason why so many people flooded over there, was because the algorithm was feeding them the content that they wanted. Was that content more left-leaning? That would really speak to the demographic of the users of TikTok.
Right.
Whereas if you go on Facebook or Instagram, it's feeding you peripheral of what you might, or even if you're like, I'm pro this, it's going to give you a con. It's not necessarily going to feed you. So like there
That's
were
interesting.
influencers who are like, I'm all about beauty and makeup, and their entire feeds would be about beauty and makeup.
Right.
If you were a content creator who was about politics and it's a specific stance, then that's where your algorithm would feed. So I wouldn't say that it was leaning. I say that it was more accurately feeding you back the content that you were asking for.
I think Trump's in trouble here really quick. I'm going to make it 30 seconds. He really has a thing against China. He and China, he sees as the other upcoming America, what it should have been, right? He has a real problem with China, and yet he needs TikTok, like you said. So how does he deal with the Chinese that own TikTok? He knows that they own TikTok, getting our data, while still utilizing TikTok for his self. So he's caught in a little bit in between. I also didn't have TikTok, so it wasn't a big deal to me.
Okay, Sam, what do you think?
I
You're a
also
TikTok
do-
user. You don't?
No, I also do not have TikTok.
Y'all better get on TikTok.
I know.
I-
Too old.
No, you're not.
The selfish part of me was like, oh, thank God, get rid of it. Like, because that's just me being selfish. Because for me personally, I suffer from tendencies to go down rabbit holes when it comes to Instagram, social media. And for me, I'm like, ooh, that's one vice I don't have to be a part of. That's my own selfish take. I do know that a lot of people make their living off TikTok. I know a lot of people get some oppositional views that are rooted in truth from some political influencers like our buddy Hassan Piker. So I do, and I think Trump did quite well on TikTok. I think that helped his campaign. Trump was able to, with whatever team he had, utilize certain TikTok content that helped him garner a younger vote. I believe
I don't think TikTok helped him that much. I think he went after the podcasts.
that could be
Theo
true as
Vaughn,
well.
Joe Rogan. That's what it worked.
Yeah.
So did Kamala. She tried, but
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think our priorities, back to what Erica said, if we're going to really start speaking about priorities, if we're going to ban stuff, I'd rather we ban things that cost children's lives, like firearms, as opposed to an app that some people make their living off of. But I do think that there needs to be regulations on TikTok. I've said that from day one. I think social media needs to be regulated more. And I know that's a slippery slope, and I know a lot of people might disagree with me, but
Give me an example of a regulation.
it's just too addictive. It's too addictive for an adult, let alone children and teens. I don't have the answers. I would like to see what the Silicon Valley
People, yeah.
I wish there was like a time limit. I know we're going to move on after this,
Yeah.
but I've said it a bunch of times for people just tuning in. In China, they have a time limit. It's shut off between like midnight and 6 a.m. You can't go on. Your algorithm that you were talking about, they don't have that. Their algorithm is shaped. It's talking about like motivation and
Art.
job opportunities, and everything's for the positive. Here is what we make it, and I think you could drive yourself nuts if your algorithm's filled with politics and you're super left wing or super right wing and you're seeing the opposite. I think you could make yourself crazy.
But that's the politics of America. America's free speech
Right.
and free enterprise, and China's communism, and the government tells you what to say. So that's literally
But
the
I don't
difference.
think it's taking away free speech if you're like, it's shut down for everybody from this time to this time, just to give America a little break.
It's a regulated.
A regulation.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But it's hard because those times might work for you. And I'm going to say this and move on. But like, if it was shut down from 11 a.m. to 4 a.m., so people would be like, I work third shift. That's
If
the only
that's
time.
your job,
I know.
I know.
It's
I'm
just
just
hard.
trying to spitball some ideas.
no, yeah,
because it is a problem,
I
and it's not
agree.
just kids. Adults are losing their mind. They're insane. I think a lot of people that are on that long are mentally insane.
Right.
Like
I mean-
definitely, they're clinical.
Well, your view of the world is definitely skewed. But I mean, it is a little bit of a slippery slope. Before we move on to birthright citizenship, if we're getting rid of things that are addictive, are video games next?
Are cigarettes
because cigarettes they came for those. Thank you.
that was-
They're
Paul
not
Mall.
illegal. They're
What
legal.
ye-
Dude,
yeah,
what's up
but
with
they've
Brady?
been
Well, I'm
taken.
just saying the
60s?
taxation. I mean, you have a lot of things that are bad for you and addictive that we still allow in this country.
Yeah, like alcohol.
That's right. Let's cheers to that.
You're the only one drinking. You're the only one.
Oh man, I'm not drinking alone. am
All
I?
right, no, you were not.
Someone at
are.
home is drinking alone.
All right.
with me.
By yourself.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time before you're in the kitchen. Just bottle of bourbon next to just a glass, just some Etta James playing in the room.
At
That's it.
last, where's Cletus?
I wish they would have banned these damn things.
Oh man. God, I don't know. It sounds. This is gonna be terrible. I don't know. You can't even talk about cigarettes anymore. But I remember I was walking around my neighborhood. This is I don't know a couple years ago, and I walked past this black woman in her yard, watering her grass, smoking a cig in a house dress. And she looked like she didn't have a care in the world. And I was
you know
so
what?
jealous of her.
It wasn't me.
I was so jealous of her.
I want to. I'm telling you, I think about my grandparents sometimes, and like my great grandmother, and like my great grandmother started chewing snuff when she was 16 years old, and
She just got called up to the minors.
She dipped
Great
from the
short
time she was 16 to the time she died at 96.
Wow.
That woman had 2 wrinkles to her name.
Yeah, right.
What?
And I swear,
She was happy.
I swear, I look at her picture almost every day, and I'm like,
I'm gonna start dipping.
and I'm like, you know
The
what?
fountain of youth.
You know what? She was happy, like just happy. Like
Yeah.
it was. My grandmother, she would have her Johnny Walker
Yep.
Red, her
Yep.
cigarettes, and she was just like happy. And I'm like, you know what? I get it. I get it. Like that might be me tomorrow.
Where's my garden hose?
I think there's something to that, not to smoking and drinking, but I
It
think
is.
it's a mental thing. I think if you're happy in life and you don't worry about these outside things, what politics, if you're happy in life, I
Yeah.
think that takes you a long way.
Stress
if
is a
you stress
killer. You're right.
about everything and you're drinking, I think that just compounds everything.
Compounds or
It just-
I'm gonna have some Johnny Walker Red when I
Compounds
get
of
home.
compounds? Yeah.
She's making fun of how you said it.
Compounds.
She's mocking you.
Capone.
Compounds.
Capone.
You said you did.
Capone.
I just
Compounds.
all right. We're gonna
Okay, we gotta keep it moving.
we're gonna
halfway
keep it
done.
moving. All right.
Drink another beer, Alki.
It's a seltzer, dickwad.
Hey, well, let's talk about this. You'll be able to say dickwad if we get rid
Sorry.
of the federal censorship, which is another thing that Trump has proposed. So how do you guys feel about there being no FCC? Let me ask you really quickly, Erica, you were in radio. You probably had to dance around the FCC and what you could say and what you couldn't say and what would get you fined.
Yeah, we all did.
Right. So
I mean, whether it's, but you also have like the hour. So when I would start from 5 to 6 a.m., because our show, when I was doing mornings, would be 5 to 10 a.m. From 5 to 6, you can get away with some more things than you can from like 6 on.
Oh, really? There's like hourly.
yeah.
Wow.
That's like at night you can say more sexy things.
Yeah.
I know that. I didn't know it's for the morning.
But so the doing away with federal censorship, yeah, I feel like it's been done away with. I mean, most people are getting most of their information and spending most of their time on the internet. Yeah, people are saying what they want.
let
Wait,
me.
so what's the problem? What's going on?
See, that's the problem.
talking
You
about
haven't been. There's no details as to this fake executive
What are
order.
you worried about?
There's no way that he can cancel the FCC single-handedly as the president.
But
that doesn't make any sense.
let me ask you why
You need
it might be.
Congress.
Well, all of these,
Yeah.
all of these executive orders are going to need congressional support,
it's
and
bizarre.
some of them are not going to hold up.
That's right.
In court.
Let me throw something at you. I just thought about this though, Sammy. Okay, you're saying, of course, why would you get rid of the FCC? Because I'm sure a lot of the broadcast corporations, ABC, NBC, are like, we can't compete. Everything that we want to do on our show, we're going to bring a parrot on, and he's going to say who's going to win the Super Bowl. There's regulations about what he might say, and somebody will get sued. Meanwhile, a podcast can do that. A podcast doesn't have, or a video cast like this doesn't have the same.
I think it eventually will have rules.
I think it definitely
I
will,
think-
but right now it's unfair,
Right.
and I totally agree with you on both points. So, Sammy, why don't you talk to us? Do you think that might be part of it, that the bigger broadcast communications might be saying, can you take these FCC chains off of us so we can compete and maybe have a little bit edgier content so that Hoda and Kathy Lee Griffin can get up there?
Kathy Lee Gifford.
Kathy-
She's not on it.
no
It's
longer there.
Jenna-
Hoda's no
neither
longer
is
there.
Hoda.
It's Craig Melvin and
Jenna Bush.
I
Jenna
said
Bush.
Craig Melvin. So, like, do you think that might be it? That they're like, hey, if Craig Melvin wants to be like, fuck it, should he be able to say that?
I don't think the FCC is necessarily concerned.
Not
I
the
think-
FCC, the companies that are regulated by them.
They created these mediums.
Yeah, I think. Listen, I what is that, Peter?
Critics say censorship order could fuel
That's exactly right.
disinformation.
That's exactly
Thank
where
you,
I
Jen.
was going with. So I don't think when it comes to these broadcasters, not only are they worried about what Peter just said about disinformation, but they're also worried about things like hate speech. When you get rid of a governing like the FCC that enforces rules and regulations when you disseminate the news or whatever you're watching, especially when it comes to evening news and morning news, and daytime, but when it gets later, as we just talked about, that's when opinions can come in more so. But no, I think it's important to have something like the FCC. And I think that should be also important when it comes to the internet. The fact that we don't know what a fact check, there is no fact checking anymore. Broadcast, there is fact checking. So I work in local news. We cannot say anything. We have a news desk. Erica knows this. She used to work there. We have a desk that's connected to everything from the fire department to the police department to the mayor's office. And if we get any bit of news, we have to double, triple, quadruple check our sources. So when we deliver it, I'll tell you this, watch your local news because your local news, they cannot get away with some of the things you might see on some of these bigger networks that are more prime time. So I think it's important to have rules and regulations. That's my long-winded answer.
Well said.
All
But
right.
here, just to take it back to politics a little bit, when I watched Zuckerberg, right? I watched Zuckerberg on Rogan's podcast, and he was saying he was pressured by the Biden administration to take things down or to put things up. They were like kind of bullying him in some sort of way. So shouldn't that be illegal? There's no repercussions from that? Like if we're saying the FCC fines people, if you drop an F-bomb on national television, that's like 10 grand.
Let me tell you,
Probably
though,
more now.
the Bidens will have pressured every single outlet and every single junket to push themselves more. That's just what campaigns
But not
administrations
themselves.
do.
They're even agendas like COVID. You're not allowed to say certain things. With them going to, so we're saying like it's a wild west now.
It's
The internet.
Yeah, he
But
wants
what-
nothing fact checked at all.
But if you're allowed to bully people into what you think is right, that's not fact checking
But
either. That's
Je-
just pushing your agenda and using your power.
I think he was purposely vague and opaque in what they were bullying him to take down.
I don't
They-
know if
they-
bullying is the right
But you know
word.
what?
no,
asking
but
to be
Jeff,
on,
do you know
right?
what they wanted?
They're
the
pressuring.
COVID
What do you call someone
disinformation.
that pressures
It,
someone?
it wasn't even so. Yes, COVID disinformation for sure, but it was pictures of his son in undress of what's the Hunter Biden. People were posting pictures of him smoking crack and having, they have to remove those things because people are constantly uploading those images of Hunter Biden. So that if you were the president and your son had drug problems and they were starting to be on, you would call the head of the network and be
What
like,
are
"Get
we
the-"
talking about?
They were the Bidens were asking the social media platforms to not
Post
to
pictures
take
of-
down pictures of Hunter Biden in compromising positions. He was
And he's
he was
saying
addicted
he
to
felt-
crack.
he felt
He was
bullied by
smoking
that.
crack. There was videos of him having sex with people that were also on crack,
Okay.
and they
But
wanted those
there
taken
was
down.
also other agendas. Is what
I'm like,
saying.
this isn't even.
So
I don't know.
if there was regulation before and you could do that, what's the difference now?
Because now I could say right now on the internet that Jeff is a Nazi that hates women and also has AIDS, and no one will fact check me, and I can't get in trouble for that.
I see that every day. People write me that. So what are you talking about?
But they're not broadcast.
Yeah, that's not
corporations.
saying like in a authoritative person of a platform saying like you are this. There's no one to come out with a sentence saying that's not true or this is false information.
Nah,
But
There's
there
no
was
protection
never. There was never.
between people and people, but like certain
Yeah, we
media
had
groups,
media
there's
groups, there was
protection.
protection.
we had to say
if
allegedly
you said that,
with OJ.
like essentially, if someone said that on
You could sue.
GMA,
Right.
then you would be able to sue them. And the reason why they can't say that, there's no reason to say that, but the reason why they can't say that is because they're governed by this body. So it's not only protecting the networks, it's also protecting individuals. And essentially, we're talking about the eradication of that fail stop.
And I thought, for instance, you wanted regulation with social media. So would this not
I don't even know what we're talking
Okay.
about. What's the next thing we're talking
All right,
about?
Tori, this question is definitely for you. Apparently, one of these executive orders is calling for us to pull out of the Paris Agreement and the WHO, the World Health Organization, which was so vital during the pandemic. So, Tori, what do you think spurred this? I know that we're talking about two separate things. This is your jam, so take us away.
It's all a philosophy of Trump, and I want to make this pretty concise. It's all in the slogan, America First. He really wants to brand it as insulated. So Gulf of Mexico is now Gulf of America. Everything is branded. So anything in which he's in accordance with other countries, he's out. So like the Paris Climate Change Pact, hundreds of other countries are part of this to make the planet better. If that's not America First for him, he's out. If he has to put in or have half his share or put in part of the pie, he's out. So for instance, the WHO, the world is part of the World Health Organization. It's not America First. They had too many regulation. He's out. So it's like the kid who doesn't like being told what to do. It's all about his group, his America. No one can tell us what to do. Every other president, or I should say many other presidents, agreed in a cohesive environment with the world. They were America's police. They came in when countries were being taken over. If there was a world health crisis, they came in to help. Trump is saying, no more. If there's a war, you're on your own. If there's a Rwanda genocide, you're on your own. That leaves Americans feeling, maybe you like that. Maybe that's patriotism to you. I don't think going into World War II to save the Jews and the Poles because we knew that was wrong is the wrong thing to do. So if World War II was happening right now, in Trump's philosophy, we don't go in and beat the fascists. We don't beat the Nazis.
But I also
we don't.
listen, and I'm not trying to defend Trump here, but I also think America has put themselves, and I'm not saying what happened in World War II. I'm going to put that World War II aside, but there's a lot of international conflicts that America puts themselves in there for greed and control.
absolutely.
And I appreciate Trump saying that he does not want to go to war.
I agree. He's never been a war hawk,
I will
ever.
appreciate that.
He doesn't
about
like
him.
war. And he wants to get out of Ukraine and he wants to get the Israel-Gaza situation taken care of. He doesn't like that kind of chaos, and he doesn't like guns, and he doesn't like war. However, pulling out of all of this makes us isolated as a country.
Well, not only isolated, but let's keep it all the way 100. It makes us a target.
Yeah, we're vulnerable.
You have to have allies.
Yeah, we
and
don't
in
have-
order to have allies, that's a give and take situation.
And he doesn't
like
wanna
it may
give.
not be every single thing that we're a part of that is fitting to his agenda or like how he feels about it. But that's a strategic move.
Yeah, you need
I mean,
neighbors in
if
a
all of
storm.
us are
We're still part of the
countries-
United Nations. He's pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement, which
well,
is,
no, I understand
yeah.
that, but I'm saying it feels like the beginning of something
Right.
greater. I mean, let's keep in mind, it hasn't even been a week.
Yeah, it's an
So to be
isolationist
making
field,
those
yeah.
types of things to isolate, if we're 5 countries sitting here and Jeff decides to spin off on his own, well, what incentive do we have
Right.
to protect Jeff's country? Because Jeff's not only spinning out on his own, but he's also saying, well, I'm better and you're not as, superior. And also we don't need the treaties and then we're going to tax you on the goods that are coming in with tariffs and all of these things. And the 4 of us are together.
Right.
Well, now Jeff has just made himself the enemy.
Yeah, screw
That's
Jeff,
just a numbers game, it's
Tourism
that
is great
really.
over there.
No, it's just a
Naked
numbers
beaches.
game, and I think that
You
people,
could climb Mount Jeff
you
more.
can say like, make it great, or we're the best, or patriotism and
Right,
all of that,
right.
but you need allies.
I just read a book quote that said, "Neighbors are your best defense in a storm."
That's stupid.
That made no
And
sense.
if we're in a storm, we need neighbors. We don't. we
You
need
don't need
allies.
neighbors.
It
You need
makes
a
a lot. It
basement.
makes a lot of sense because look at what's happening in LA right now.
Right.
Neighbors taking care
Canada,
of
Mexico,
neighbors.
that's right.
And that's just what happens. Once you figure out, like, when you're like, we're in this together. Oh no, we really are
Yep.
in this together.
Well, let me
Made a
ask you.
lot of
Let me
sense,
ask
Al.
you guys this. It
Lot of
didn't.
sense.
Let me ask you guys this. Are we able to have this conversation without discussing the financial implications of our involvement everywhere? We have bases all over the world. We're not there to protect them. I've been to them. I performed at them. I was like, why do we have a base here?
In
Why do
Kuwait.
we have a? I mean, Germany.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's a
Amsterdam.
Democratic stronghold,
We
Al.
have. I'm saying that like Korea, Okinawa, we have basis places because not only for thank you, Peter, not only for strategy, but also if we are going to keep. Imagine if there was just a French military base,
Right.
5 miles down the street from your house, Jeff. Would you be cool with that? Soldiers driving by as your kids are walking to school, maybe making gestures about your wife when
Would
they're
Jeff
driving.
be happy
They're
if you?
20-year-old
What
soldiers.
if a war started and those people protected Jeff at that point?
But they haven't had a war.
We do kind of look after.
Yeah, we are
everybody,
the
though.
cops of the,
Yeah,
of
we
the world.
we do get.
I
I think
think
we're
it-
almost too much involved.
agree
I
with
think
you.
we're way too
Too
much
much.
involved, but I don't think it's because it's out of the goodness of our heart. It's because of course, a strategy to ensure democracy. We see that with Ukraine and Russia. But the underlying layer, especially in the Middle East,
Yeah.
is for greed and
Oil.
for money and power and control.
Right. So
Everything is about oil,
Yes.
but I would just caution people who are, America, this has to be this and has to be that. I mean, who doesn't want to be the best at everything, whether it's your individual or as a country?
It is hard though.
But-
you get tired of being the best. you
But
know?
just understand, like, there is the pendulum swings.
Right.
So ultimately, a lot of these strongholds are done because America don't want what they did to others for the others to turn around and do it back to us. So I just want to be very clear about
I
that.
mean, there's a very real thing,
And I'm sure
in
there
what
is
you're
a
saying.
lot of anger towards
Right, and a
the
lot of
US.
countries
I
have
know
gotten
there is.
stronger.
I know there is.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
That's
yeah. So
usually what breeds a lot of these terrorist
Oh,
groups.
yeah.
and also technology
Radicalizes
has
people.
It does.
has
And
And then they
balanced-
get brainwashed by their own
Yes.
people.
Radicalization,
of,
absolutely.
Not Reddit. What's the word I'm looking for?
Radicalization.
No. Like when you brainwash your own, like what North Korea does to its people. Like when there's pictures of the
Indoctrination?
leader. and
Propaganda?
Yeah, propaganda.
Okay.
That's what I was.
yes.
They were all great, but that was the word.
What?
Yeah,
We didn't talk about birthright
Oh, please.
citizenship.
Okay.
I really.
All right, so
do you
let's-
want us to talk about something else, Peter?
let's do birthright citizenship real quick before we get out of here. This was a full week.
I'm
We are like we
exhausted.
could do 5 more shows.
we had like 80 things to talk
Yes.
about.
So, Sammy, this is a subject that obviously really is of interest to all of us, but seems to really hit you in the heart. So, talk to us. What do you think about birthright citizenship?
The reason why I brought it up is because I think it proves
and Trump
that,
talking about ending it.
Well, yes, and Trump talking about ending it with his executive order he signed today. But the reason why I bring it up is I think we need to remember the theatrics behind politics. It reminds me of, when you're in elementary school and you want to be a city council member and you preach to everybody, I'm going to get everybody an extra 10 minutes of recess. It's so unlikely that he can end birthright citizenship. It's unconstitutional.
It is unconstitutional.
It's against the 14th Amendment.
It absolutely is. Equal protection, absolutely.
So I just want to remind people, because I know there's a lot of fear out there, and I'm not trying to dismiss anyone's personal feelings if they feel like that, it's going to affect them or their family, but this is unconstitutional. And I do not believe, there's no way that the courts are going to allow this to happen.
Would you have said the same thing about abortion?
Well, I
Because
think
that was
the
going in, like,
difference
2
is
weeks.
it's where the money, literally where the money resides. When it really comes down to it, my husband has birthright citizenship. That's how I know people think that he married me for citizenship. He
Do people
actually,
think that?
there's been a lot of theories, a lot of theories on both sides. Let me tell you.
Why wouldn't it just be Erica's great? Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally get
I were like,
marry
oh,
Erica.
so he
We
needed
really would.
citizenship.
Yeah,
I'm like, he's Canadian. Like, I mean,
You can walk in.
very weird. But I think that's a great question. Would you have said the same thing about abortion? I think the numbers and where the money resides is different in those two capacities. I think a lot of times people, because we've gotten into this with other people who have, had green card situations, they weren't citizens, and like, oh, how is this going to affect me? No one's looking at you. Like, no one's thinking about, no one's thinking about Anthony being Canadian and having birthright citizen. Like, first of all, he's paid taxes for about a decade at this point since he's been in America.
Probably a lot
and
of
nobody's
taxes.
trying to lose that check. I mean, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about this, a lot of this does come down to money. A lot of it comes down to just political warfare.
Yeah.
And also how it looks in a digestible bit. he got rid of birthright citizenship.
Right.
First of all, you need a ratification of an amendment of a constitution that takes so much, like Sam said.
And I think a lot of people aren't going to follow that.
Correct.
So it
They're
looks
done.
like he's getting stuff
Right.
done.
The
He's-
highlights.
So I just wanted to remind people that, and other presidents have done the same thing. So I just want to remind people that there's a constitution for a reason, and not to say that the constitution shouldn't change. I'm not talking about birthright citizenship, but if there's other things, I mean, so my whole point is there's going to be a lot of pushback, I think, not only with that, but also with, I know the ACLU has already gotten involved with the gender, because they're more worried about healthcare, not so much women in sports or trans women in sports. They're more so worried about healthcare initiatives when it comes to trans people.
All right. And I will say this, we got to wrap. I wanted to talk about the January 6th parts, but we're going to have to save that till next week.
Oh, there's going to be more, so yes.
Yes, who knows how far down the hill we'd be by then. This is day 2, so I don't know. We'll see. There's a Chinese saying that says, may you live in interesting times. And we are definitely doing that.
Yeah, but now that might be banned.
No, that's not part of the fortune cookie. It's just the first part. I've been Al Jackson, Sam Shocker,
Who are you going to be now?
Erica Cobb, Jeff Schroeder. Y'all, we appreciate you all the support. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. You know we love you, Night Owls, and we'll be back here soon.
Hoot hoot.